Hi, I'm Amber.
Hi, I'm AJ, and welcome to Mountain Traditions Homestead.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah.
Filming a video. What you doing?
Currently being filmed.
You want to share what you're doing?
I guess we're doing a bread video. Good morning, everybody. I'm making some homemade yeast bread. Well, to start off, you need 2 cups of warm, not really hot water, but reasonably warm water. Warmer than room temperature. So you need 2 cups of that. And you add 1.5 tablespoons of active dry yeast to the water. Mix it up a little bit. A little whisk. And you let that sit for about 5 minutes until it starts to bubble. And I'll show you what I mean by bubble. I'm using the KitchenAid this morning. We were using this paddle or spade to do it because we'd lost our dough hook, but we found our dough hook, so you can use this, but we'll be using the dough hook this morning. You have 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Put that in the bowl. 1/4 cup of vegetable oil or olive oil, whatever oil you want to use. And after you got your yeast mixed in, go ahead and mix 2/3 cup sugar because yeast is activated with sugar. So go ahead and add that to our water yeast mixture. Giving the yeast enough time to dissolve into the water. Alright. And the recipe also calls for 6 cups of self-rising flour. And that's pretty much it ingredients wise. Minus a little more flour at the end when you're rolling it out and whatnot. But we'll be back as soon as this starts bubbling. Okay, as you can see, the yeast sugar water mixture is foamy, and that's what I mean by foamy. You can see the top layer is, that means the yeast has started to work, so it's ready to be used. So we've already got our 1/4 cup of oil and our 1.5 teaspoons of salt in the mixing bowl. We're going to add our yeast mixture. And it smells delicious already.
It smells like Thanksgiving. That's what it reminds me of.
Alright, now, it's not required, but I always go ahead and turn the mixer on and mix everything together a little bit without spraying it everywhere. Make sure everything gets kind of mixed, the oil mixed with the yeast and stuff. Now, when you're doing this, need to leave it low, maybe on 1 or 2, and only add a half to 1 cup of flour at a time. If you dump all the flour in there, it's a huge mess, so you have to do it a little bit at a time so it mixes properly. So we'll go ahead and start that. Like I said, this is 6 cups of self-rising flour. And of course, if you don't have self-rising flour, you can use all-purpose flour and just add baking powder to it. We might do that in another video for biscuits or something. You just slowly start adding the flour to the mixture. And as it starts mixing, you'll have to turn it up a little bit because it'll start bogging the machine down. If I'm not mistaken, we got this recipe from Living Traditions Homestead, their YouTube channel. We watched the video and then I wrote down the recipe. Other than old family recipes, that's how we get a lot of our recipes, is off of YouTube, especially from Living Traditions Homestead. If you haven't checked them out, please check them out. They're awesome. Like I said, just a little bit at a time, and when it starts getting a little bogged down, you turn it up a little bit. Because if you've never handled yeast bread or any type of yeast-based anything, the dough is very, very sticky, and I mean very sticky. I'm going to let this mix a little bit because I put that in too soon. It is very sticky, and I mean, I would compare it to half-dried honey sticky, like stringy sticky. I'll turn it down a little bit. This is actually my first time using a dough hook itself. Usually I use the paddle, so I'm learning as I go on this one, as to what speeds to use. But it's looking delicious already. Get Amber to come in and get a close-up of it. It's making a nice ball in there. And after I put all the flour in, I will turn it up a little bit to make sure it's mixed good. Down to the last bit of it, so I'm just going to pour that in. Alright. Let that mix for a minute or 2. Then I'll turn it up. As you can hear, it's bogging down. So I'm going to turn it up a little bit. I want to tear out the gears or nothing. Amber might kill me. Okay, second gear on this thing's about as high as it needs to go.
And it will feel different with the dough hook as opposed to the paddle too.
Yeah.
As far as what your setting is on.
I mean, I will say the dough hook has mixed it a lot better than the paddle usually does, which is awesome. Okay. It has made a nice ball of dough, and it looks pretty evenly mixed, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. And if Amber will come over here, you can see how sticky this stuff is. It's just stringy sticky. But that's okay. That's what it's supposed to be. And like I said, we got this off of Living Traditions Homestead, and it is delicious. I hope that y'all will try it. Like I said earlier, it's very good, but it is not a sourdough bread that takes hours upon hours, if not days. This takes only a couple hours. We will try to do a couple more videos of the different kinds of breads we do. Our last video, the SHTF video, we got asked about how our flour doesn't go bad in the big 5-gallon buckets. It's because we eat bread. 90% of the bread we eat is homemade, whether it's biscuits, cornbread, loaf bread, whatever. One of the other breads I make is what I would call an artisan bread. It's crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside. You make it in a Dutch oven. It's delicious. Again, got that from Living Traditions Homestead. Another one I have yet to try that I want to try, it's my grandmother's recipe. It's called beer bread, but it takes several days for the dough to get ready to be made into bread. So maybe since gardening season's over, we can start doing videos that take days to do. But I'm going to stop talking now because my dough's already rising. Once you get it mixed, you need to take it and knead it just a little bit. Again, if you've ever used yeast in recipes, you know that it rises and you have to let it rise. So right now, you bake it on 350, but I'm going to turn the oven on about 250. That way the stove top gets warm. Yeast needs kind of a warm surface area to continue to rise. So I am going to get some flour all over my hands so the dough don't stick to me. We have a dough scraper here. So just going to scrape it out of the bowl. Look at that, beautiful. And again, if you've ever smelt yeast rolls or anything, they smell delicious. So it's very fluffy where the yeast is working itself. It honestly feels like what you'd think a cloud would feel like. But you don't want to get too much on there. But you need to roll it and knead it a little bit. If you don't know what kneading is, you just roll the dough around, squish it a little bit. It's actually encouraged. I don't know if y'all seen the meme or the vine on YouTube, but you gotta smack and get the air bubbles out. If you haven't, look it up. I'm not gonna go there, but it's funny. Anyway, get it going, get it kneaded, and smack it, and try to squeeze as much of the air out of it as you can. Because as it rises, it'll create more, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. Then you make a nice big ball out of it. Like I said, I've got the oven turned on so it'll stay hot, or warm rather, under it. You take it and you set it in a pre-greased bowl. It'll rise a lot, that's why we have it in this. So you just set it right there in the bowl. Make sure it's greased, because if you don't, you're going to have a time getting it out. Because like I said, it's sticky. Then you take a tea towel, anything big enough to cover your bowl. Get you some nice hot water going. Thankfully it's already warm. soak your towel that you're going to put over it. Make sure it gets warm, evenly coated, and wring it out, not to where it's completely dry, but to where it's damp. Then you cover your bread and you leave that for 1 hour, and we'll be back after an hour. Hey everybody, our timer just went off, so we're getting ready to uncover the dough here. If I can get Amber to come in, and you remember what it looked like before, and ta-da!
Now that's a big bowl. Keep that in mind too.
It was this big, and now it's this big. So I've got some flour on the counter. Get some on my hands. Now, and it's still warm from where we had the stove on. So I guess I can do this where y'all can see it. Since we greased the pan, it's easy to just slide her on out. Now, like I said before, you know, yeast, when it starts eating sugar, the sugars and stuff, it creates gases, and your dough is going to be full of air pockets. So what you need to do, make sure it's not sticky, knead it a little bit more. First time I made the bread, I didn't do all this, and there was air pockets like that big in the bread. It was horrible. So,
still tasted wonderful.
Yes. All right. So make sure you got some flour, just a little bit. It don't take much. On your dough, get you a rolling pin. Make sure it's got flour on it too, and you need to roll all the air out of it, and I'll try to be quiet so you can hear it. I don't know if you can hear the bubbles popping or not, but need to make it as thin as you can, and I'll show you why in a second. Not just to get the bubbles out, but alright, so you need to make it into maybe a rectangle. I started to say square, but make it into a rectangle like this, okay? And now, what we're going to do is roll it as tight as you can. Make sure there's no air bubbles in it. And this dough is also very heavy. Try to make it as consistent as you can. You don't want it one end to be 3 inches around and the other end be a 1 inch. So you roll it best you can into a long roll like this. Okay. Now, once you do that, excuse me, guess where the center is? Just cut it.
I don't know if we've said this recipe does make 2 loaves of bread.
I forgot to mention that, but it does make 2 loaves. So, alright, now you got 2 almost same size loaves. You need bread pans. These are pre-greased. You You take your roll, try to squeeze it, make sure there's too much air in it. You take the ends and flatten them a little bit and fold them under like that. Then you stick it in your pan and press it in the bottom. Try to make it the same size all the way around. Do the same with this one. Squish the ends, fold them under, stick them in the pan, push it down in there. Now, set it on your warm stove top. Get your towel nice and warm again, wet, and let them sit for another 20 minutes. And after you do that, you can put them in the oven to bake them. So I'm going to cover this, put the oven on 350 so it'll be preheated when it's time to take this off, and it'll be ready to go, and we'll see you in a minute. Alright everybody, our timer just went off. They've been sitting for 20 minutes, covered up. As you can see, they have continued to rise, As you can see, they have rose some more. What we're going to do is push just a little bit, try to even it out. And the oven has been preheated to 350 degrees. Set it on the top rack. And bake them for 30 minutes. And after that, we'll take them out and show you what I do. Okay, our timer just went off and we're ready to pull the bread out of the oven. Oh yeah. Now, like I said before, with the yeast bread, yeast makes gases that make stuff expand. When it heats up, the gases go to the top. So what I normally do is take it to, we don't have a cooling rack, so take it, flip it on its top. And you see that's mostly air. And we just kind of push it down into a loaf. And it ain't pretty. Don't claim for it to be pretty, but it is so delicious.
I wish you could smell it through the camera.
And, well, that's our homemade yeast bread. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you have any questions, just comment. And we try to answer all of them. We'll also put a recipe on there so you can get everything. You don't have to sit there and write down as I'm saying. So, thank you for watching. God bless.